All right. And we are live. Hello, everyone. Let me just check some settings really fast. Looks good. Audio looks good. Video looks good. Excellent. 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 Happy Saturday. Oh, Sunday. Happy Sunday. I always get the days mixed up. Hope you all are having a wonderful weekend so far. We'll go ahead and jump in here in just 2 shakes. I like to give it a few seconds to allow people to come on in, get settled, grab your favorite beverage, hang out for another round of live Q&As. Hello, guys. Hello, Angie, Serene Goddess, Becca, Northwest Wind. Hello, Darren, Sarah. Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Yay. Oh, what is it? Going back up. Hello, Francesca. Good to be here. You guys are the sweetest. I see a lot of familiar faces. Mina, hi. A lot of familiar faces, a few new faces. Y'all are the kindest. How's everyone's weekend going so far? Hopefully having a very lazy Sunday, a nice relaxing Sunday, wherever in the world you might be, or Monday morning. For some of you, it may be Monday morning. But regardless, let's go ahead. Oh, checking something really fast. All right, we're good. Let's go ahead and just jump on in. Let's just get ourselves started, because why not? Again, thank you guys so much for being here. Welcome if you are new here, or welcome back if you are returning to another round of live Q&As where we hang out, we talk about the law, we talk about conscious manifestation, and as always, give you guys the chance to ask any questions, gain clarity and understanding so that you can apply these teachings in your life, in your world. Just a quick couple things before we get going. One-on-one coaching. I've had many people reach out about one-on-one coaching. The waitlist is opening up this week. So if you are not on the waitlist and you are interested in joining and working together, or you just want more information, you can find that down in the description box below. And keep eyes out in your inbox and also your spam folder in case something winds up there. But I am excited. I'm really excited for that. And I do also have, much requests for people to, with my workshops and my courses, I've had a lot of people reach out asking when I was going to do another sale, give another discount. And so I've decided to go ahead and do just that. So right now for this week, I've got 30% off all of my courses, masterclasses, workshops. Again, you can find all that info down below. So if you have wanted to join one of my masterclasses, you've been interested in doing so, definitely check that out. All the information is below. And with all that said, just double checking my notes. Yeah, with all that said, let's jump on in. Gabriella, yes, I saw that. And I will be doing replies and inquiries this afternoon. Lots and lots of emails this afternoon after the live. I am excited. Angie's got a great question right off the bat. I've had times where I randomly say, what if blank texts me, what if blank happens? Or I have a feeling someone is going to reach out and they do. Is this me manifesting or is it intuition? Fantastic question. It's manifestation. That is conscious. Well, not conscious. We're unconsciously doing it, but we are manifesting that. That is the inner world outpictured, right? You've imagined something, even if it was just a fleeting thought, you're like, oh, be nice to hear from this person. I wonder how they're doing. And then they reach out to you. Yeah, yeah, that is absolutely ways that we can test the law. And why I am so big on self observation, because these little things can pass by all the time if we're not paying attention or if we don't know, because a lot of times it could be mistaken for intuition, synchronicities, coincidence, but it's none of those things. That is the outpicturing. That is manifestation. And we're doing it all the time. Northwest Wind, always with your excellent questions. A lot of spiritualities emphasize detachment from desires. How do you counter traditionalists with the argument that we were meant to experience desires? The idea of materialism versus spiritualism. I love that. I love that question. Um, how to emphasize, or how to counter the idea, and I think it's, for example, really popular in Buddhism, right? That desire is the root of all suffering, or that wanting something is the root of all suffering, things like that. But that's just one example. But I mean, we're here to have a human experience in this 3D world. And yes, it is full of material things. That is kind of the point, right? So, and I understand where a lot of these spiritualities are coming from. I understand that the idea is if we are keeping ourselves in a state of desiring or wanting or longing, that it can absolutely lead to suffering. But I don't take that to mean we should not have desires, because that completely, it almost voids the whole point of having this human experience, which is duality. We live in duality, or what appears to be duality, here in the 3D. So I don't see anything at all wrong with material desires, because of course, otherwise what would be the point, you know? But that's just my 2 cents. Hi, Kelly. Hello. Let me see. Spot. Serene Goddess. Mhm. I have been revising many incidents and sats these past weeks, but during the day, I got hit badly with ego backlash. I am worse now than I was before revising. Is this normal, and will it get better? It will pass. It will. This is not going to be a continuous thing. Yes, we may experience backlash that appears to be more severe or more frequent as we are doing this inner work. That is actually very common. And I don't, I don't say that like it's a great thing. It obviously does not feel good, but as reassurance that this is normal. What we want to kind of take away, the ego self, the purpose of the ego is protection. Like it wants to protect itself. It's also how we experience this duality or this illusion of separation. Um, Basically, we couldn't have this human experience without the ego. But a huge part of its function and role is defense, is protection, is safety. Hence why we don't like change. Hence why, in general, human beings are not fans of change and the unknown and new ways of thinking. It's why we can be so averse, even if it's something we consciously really want. We may no longer want to be stuck in these old patterns and these old beliefs. But that subconscious, deep subconscious structure or programming, it's going to push back. And so that's why it seems like when we're making progress, when we've seemed to have made some strides, we're doing really good, we've just had, maybe an epiphany or what have you, it can feel like it's pushing back even harder. This is not going to last though. And that's what I made that video about ego backlash. I mean, number one, of course, for education, but to reiterate that where persistence comes in this practice is in cases like that. If we do seemingly fall back into the old state, if we do experience backlash, if something happens, rest assured, we want to, as soon as we are able to, direct ourselves back. Because as you get more and more familiar with that new state of being, as you get more familiar with the things that you are revising, as that starts to become more and more normal for you, you're going to be subconsciously operating from that new state instead of the old one. So I know it sucks. I know it sucks so bad. Hang in there. This is normal, but it will not last. Let me see. Hi, Danielle. Where was my spot? Hi, Missy. The Sabbath. How does it feel for you? How can you describe the state? What thoughts come to you? I would like to hear your experience. Good question. Good question. I'm trying to remember. I believe I recently came out with a video about the Sabbath, but I actually need to double check that before I confirm. So the Sabbath, my personal experience, and everyone may be a little bit different, but my personal experience with the Sabbath, it feels normal. It feels like truth. It just is. There's not really a sense of euphoria. There's not really that, jumping over the moon with joy. I mean, I'll have moments that feel really good. But it's more of a peace. It's a calm. And I'm no longer noticing any of the thoughts from the place of absence. Like I'm not noticing double-mindedness. It just feels, yeah, truthful would probably be the best word. Yeah, easygoing. You might even notice you're not even thinking about whatever it is as much. Um, Certainly not from that old state. The thoughts are going to be different, but you may turn your attention to something else entirely. Yeah, yeah. All of those kinds of things are similar to other people that I've talked to and have described. But the Sabbath is the day of rest, so it's no longer trying to do anything because there's nothing to do because it's already done. Yeah. And I gotta see if I've recently made a video about that. If not, I should probably touch on that topic again. So good to have you here, Lisa. All of you. All of you. Missy, when we live in the end, I find it difficult to see that new version of me with everything I have. Can you please do a video on how we see that version of ourselves? Good question. To see that new version. You mean in imagination, Francesca? It feels difficult to see it in imagination? Well, at first it's probably going to feel because it's a new concept, right? And with the new concept, it's gonna feel maybe a little bit weird. It's unfamiliar. So, but that's the entire point. Like we're making the unfamiliar more familiar. We're getting normalized with it. We're bringing these aspects that we desire into our awareness, whereas before it was not on the mind a whole lot. Or if we were thinking about the desire, it was thinking of it longingly. Like I hope I get this. I hope I want this so bad. Things like that. But and if I am misunderstanding the question, let me know. Um, but that's really the frequency of going to that end state is because we want to make the unfamiliar more familiar. We want to make that end state more normal for us. We want to flesh it out, right? So at first may feel a bit challenging, but rest assured, that's why we continue to go back there. That's the point of persistence in this practice. Yes, there may be a little bit of buffering on this live. If that is the case, refresh the browser. Um, yeah, yeah. There's a couple people that are working outside near the um, the internet lines. So, but if you refresh, it should be okay. Going back up. Oh, Sarah, everything has turned horrible within this last week. Oh, already revised, but 3D is showing so much direct contrast. Feels like I jumped into a horrible parallel universe. How to proceed forward? Oh, I'm so sorry. Uh, well, first, I am glad that you revised. That should always be the first thing that we do, if anything, is revise it. So I'm glad that that was kind of the natural instinct to go to. Um, how do we proceed forward? This is where we lean back on faith. This is where we go back to that first principle. Be still and know that I am God. Like it's for those times when it appears the 3D is opposite of what we wanted. When things look terrible, when things are showing up in ways that are filling us with dread and fear, this is where we lean heavily into the faith and that first principle, so that we do not get swept up in it, so that we do not just become at the mercy of the 3D circumstance. That said, as always, do make sure that you are looking out for you. You're looking out for your well-being, your health. If you need to turn your attention to something that feels lighter, that feels better, that feels enjoyable, I would be doing that. You know, it's different for everybody, but absolutely, I would continue to revise until it feels like that old story or that old memory, whatever happened, didn't happen or it doesn't feel as real. Lean heavily into that faith. Remember that this is all just the outpicturing of the one source, which is, in my reality, that is me. And if I can create, I can uncreate always. And I know it's so much easier said than done in theory than in practice, but do continue to revise and do remember that first principle always. It is so hard to forget the old story and try to get into the new state. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's always been the habit. That's always been the pattern. Like that has been what we've always returned to unconsciously. So just we do not have to continue to identify with that old state. We don't have to continue to identify with the old assumptions, what had happened to us. We don't have to do that. 'Cause we can turn to anything in imagination. That is the creative power. That is the creative power of God within us. But yeah, at first, probably going to feel a little bit challenging, but it won't continue to do so. Hi, Missy. How can I manifest a job when I also simultaneously don't believe in working 9 to 5 anymore, but temporarily want a job to have while I build my business on the side? How can I manifest a job? So, whether or not you believe it, like you believe that this thing could happen in the 3D, doesn't really matter. At first, we're probably not going to believe it. And that's kind of the entire point. Because what we have to remember when it comes to the law is we're not being asked to have full conviction in this thing. We're not being asked to, completely give up everything. We're just being asked to go there in imagination. We're being asked to have that experience of what we desire in imagination and to enjoy it, to have fun with it. Nothing more, nothing less. Where we get caught up is conditioning our desire. We're bringing aspects of the 3D and what we perceive as obstacles or reason as to why this can't happen. And because of that, we don't even allow ourselves to go there. Like in imagination, imagination is not off limits anywhere. Nothing is off limits in your mind, period, point blank. So that is most important to remember because you can experience having your, building your business, or I would even go further and to see yourself with your successful business. What is a milestone that you look forward to or that you desire to hit in your business? Whatever that is, go there. See yourself as already hitting that milestone. You have already made a successful business. And all the things that need to happen in between the job, the whatever it might be, doesn't matter. Does not matter. Go by. I'm manifesting a pregnancy, and all of a sudden I feel horrible pain because I might have I can't talk today. Endometriosis. How come such a contrast occurs on the bridge of incidents? Oh, well, so the things that show up on the bridge are going to typically be from our beliefs. Like the bridge unfolds for us in a way that feels most natural. So things might occur on this bridge if we have that belief, if we have that assumption. So if there was a fear about this, if maybe there was, and again, this could even be things that you were not conscious of, but if there were fears about difficulties getting pregnant, endometriosis, other things, it because everything is an outpicturing. Everything is an outpicturing of something that was once imagined. But regardless, You don't have to accept that fact. You don't have to entertain it. That, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you don't have a definitive diagnosis, which even if you did, doesn't matter. But if this is purely a hypothetical, don't entertain it. No, 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 no. And I know, again, it's gonna feel difficult sometimes not to go there, but again, coming back to the fact that whatever is coming up for us on this bridge, we can ultimately change it. Always. Doesn't matter. So yeah, sometimes the events that come up for us is based on old fears. A lot of the time it's just that. But we don't have to accept it as true or final for us, and we continue to go back to the end. Yeah. Frank! Hi, sir. Oh my goodness. It's been a minute. Hey, Missy, quick question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I need to ask anyway. I met someone a few months ago. She's perfect. We've gotten extremely close as friends, soulmate level stuff. Oh, there's one minor 3D detail. She's in a happy marriage. Just always that one caveat, right? I know she's someone I'd want to be with. What's the best way forward to be in that relationship? 3P out and everyone involved happy. Good question. Good question. And I know, yeah. So, one thing that is going to be really helpful is to come back to the concept that creation is finished, right? Coming back to that idea that creation is finished. So, there is already a reality where you and your person are happily together, and the third party has gone off living their own best life wherever, right? Obviously, we wish them well. We do not wish ill on anyone, but that's already a thing that already exists. That's not even something we have to create because it's already created. So, really, of course, the key is to continue to go back to that premise of when you are married to this person or together in a long-term relationship, if whatever you prefer, what is life going to be like? What is that going to look like? What are some aspects of it? Maybe you will go traveling, who knows? But that's just what you're continuing to entertain. And we do not give our attention or fixate on any of the present day 3D scenarios. None of that matters. None of that matters. Yeah, but if you I guess if you need any more examples, let me know. But that's wonderful for you, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy to hear that. Hi, Yara. Where's my spot? Arlene, great question. Hi, Missy. What is the difference between a vivid daydream and an imaginal act? One supposedly helps you manage daydream. Hang on 2 seconds. I think we're buffering a little bit. 2 seconds. Sorry, guys. Just checking something really fast. No, this is a great question, though. So, what's the difference between a vivid daydream and an imaginal act. The biggest key is realness, and by realness, believability. So a daydream, and this is where it gets confusing. We might have daydream that feels very vivid and real in tones of reality. Like it can feel very realistic, but nonetheless will come out of the daydream feeling like it's wishful thinking. It will feel like, yeah, that would be nice, but it's probably not going to happen, or anything like that. With an imaginal act, we accept that it is done, that we just had that real experience. We felt it, like we put ourselves in there, felt that experience, actually had it, cut and dry in that case. So yeah, we really want to come back to imagination being reality and not just fantasy. How do we manifest someone we haven't met yet? Good question. So, this is where we can get creative. If there's not a specific person, like somebody that you don't know or haven't met, you first want to get familiar with what aspects do you want in a partner? Like what are the qualities, what are the things that you are looking for in a relationship? And you can make a list if it helps, but just whatever can help you saturate the mind with the concept, with the idea of that perfect person, from looks to personality traits to their, goals and ambitions, whatever it might be. Now, if this is somebody that you know of but just haven't met, you can of course use a scene. You can of course use inner conversation. There's ways that you can absolutely imagine the experience of being with that person, if that's what you meant. But if it's someone that you don't know, haven't met, don't know that they exist yet, I would just get very, very clear on what you are looking for in a partner and go there. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah. And just as a heads up for those that maybe weren't in here earlier, if you're noticing any buffering, just go ahead and hit refresh. That should do the trick. My apologies. Um, oh, where did you go? So, chat is jumpy today. Sorry, guys. Oh, I guess the message was retracted. Sorry about that. Um, Hello, Missy. My SP was the best, but he ended it out of the blue. Oh, he did it once before. How can I trust him again when I manifest him back? I've revised the breakup many times. Do I accept him without? Um, not sure if there was a part two to that. Um, but yeah, how do we trust eh, that they're not going to make the same pattern? That it's not going to be the same pattern as before? Revision and continuing to revise until we are no longer resonating at all with that old story. If there is still a fear that, this is going to happen again, that they're just going to up and leave again. That's sort of our feedback. That's indication that there is still, to some degree, an attachment to this old story and the old outcome. So I know you mentioned that you've revised, but we may need to, especially for lack of better words, bigger things, for things that have more of an impact, have more gravity, have more weight to the situation that maybe we have attachment to. We may need to continue to go back and revise it until it no longer feels like that is what happened, or we're no longer noticing that fear. The other side of that coin is to focus on the feeling of, or I guess the concept, the belief that you are prioritized, that you are chosen, that you are the prize. And that is going to be where you fix your attention. Because if you are in a state where you are chosen and you know this to be true without question, you genuinely will not have any worry about this. The thought won't even cross your mind. So those are my two things that I would be focusing on right now. Yeah. And I know it can feel scary. But again, that's all old. That's all old story. Old story. Gabriella, you have a good question. Hey, Missy, I'm so happy to be part of the email. Aw, yay. No, I'm happy to be working with you. It's good to put a face to the name. I love it. I started to see movement in the 3D. He checked my TikTok account many times, wished me a happy birthday after 5 months of no contact. And Friday, he reached out with a heart to my stories of my nice breakfast. What can I think of this? Is it happening very soon? Good question. Good question. So, I mean, number one, I would take that all as great feedback. Certainly. Like if you are noticing that, especially reaching out again after periods of no contact, let me just make sure that I just didn't miss anything. However, what we want to, I guess what's the best way of putting this? We want to make sure that we fall into the trap of turning our attention back to the 3D. It's one of the sneakiest traps that we can fall into. Like, we forget to continue to go to the end, and we start to instead direct our attention to what's happening in 3D. Because the truth is, time is not a thing. Like, linear time is not a thing. So is it happening? Assume it already has. Assume it already has, and continue to go back to that premise. Because if we start to give our focus to the 3D and movement and then no movement, and then we're getting frustrated and then we're happy again, like that's how we can slip back into frustration, doubt, double-mindedness. So, I mean, yes, it is awesome to see that he has reached out, that things are happening, and I know how exciting that can feel. But just do not let yourself get distracted from the aim, from already being together. Yeah. We'll definitely go into that in more detail, for sure. Greetings from the Philippines. Greetings. Good to have you here. What's your best advice on dealing with friends/family asking about your desire when the 3D hasn't conformed yet? I don't want to affirm the opposite, but I don't want to lie either. That is a good question. I know. I should probably make another video talking about how do we deal with the 3D before things have come to pass, namely other people, friends and family. asking about the circumstance. And we certainly don't have to lie and really emphasize, like, we don't need to lie. However, we don't really have to say anything if we're not comfortable doing so. And we can say just that, right? Um, I guess one thing that Neville always said that is resoundingly true is tell no man. Like, unless you are in a place of unwavering faith, like unshakable faith, talking to other people around you about the circumstance can lead us into a place of doubt and fear, especially if they're giving us feedback that we don't want to hear. Um, so, I mean, I would say something like, "Yeah, no, I prefer to keep that stuff private for right now. I'm, you know, going through a lot," or whatever it might be. Just sort of like, don't really want to talk about it, and then change the subject. It could really be that simple. Or if you have to wind up telling them the things that are not ideal, revise it later. Revise it later. If you do wind up talking about that old circumstance, the unwanted one, revise it later. But we don't have to engage with the things that we do not want to engage with. Let me see. Oh my God, John. Hey, people. I recently watched your latest revision video and it resonated with me big time. In using it, I actually, within days, felt a complete lifting of lifelong chest anxiety and panic. Wow. That's incredible, my friend. Amazing. Amazing. And the utmost relief that comes from that is I remember when that happened to me. When it felt like there was this constant underlying pressure on my chest, but all the time. Like my baseline was anxiety to the point where I wasn't even fully conscious of how anxious I was. And when that lifted, when that was finally alleviated, oh my God. You cannot put it into words. I am so happy for you. Good. Good. I'm gonna keep saying it forever and ever. Revision will change your life. Is SP also manifesting? Good question. So, in your reality, and I noticed there's a couple questions along the lines of this, but in your consciousness, right? In your waking experience, you are the operant power, which means you are the one selecting the state or states, I guess. You're the one that is always selecting which experience to have, either consciously or most of the time unconsciously. We do most of this unconsciously. But nobody has power over you in your world. Now, in their reality, different story. But and this is, I know it can get really, really confusing really fast. And it is difficult to wrap the mind around for sure. But in your world, you are the operant power because you are the only one having this experience in your reality. Like you can only see things and experience things through your consciousness. So you're selecting the state, you're selecting the version of the person, whatever that looks like, all of it. Welcome. You're not late. You're good. You are good. How long do reflections take when a drastic change within happens? Does it vary for you? Or do you notice correlations? Can a bridge move faster due to occupying state more, like bliss? Absolutely. Absolutely. And there is most definitely a correlation to the frequency of occupying that state and the change, both within and without. 100%. 100%. So when you notice that drastic change within you, typically speaking, change happens fast. Now, again, I'm not going to put absolutes on everything because we don't know the events, the bridge, how it's going to unfold. But in my experience, certainly, the more I occupy that new state, the more of a shift that takes place within, the faster it comes. All right, trying to find my spot. Good luck on your exam tomorrow. You've got this. You've got this. See it as already done. See the report. You already aced it. Hi, Missy. Is it normal not to really feel like being around people and enjoying your own company while healing and changing your beliefs? People around me don't get it. I mean, this was my experience too. I don't want to say it's this way for everyone, but when I was in the thick of it, I really just enjoyed my company, like being alone within myself. Like I wasn't so distracted, if that makes sense. So I mean, I would say it's pretty normal. It just from personal experience and those people that I've talked to. hmm I mean, of course, doesn't mean that we need to be a hermit and isolate ourselves per se, but you may be feeling more homebody ish because this is a deeply personal internal journey. hmm It's normal. When I imagine, a negative imagination that I don't want enters along with a positive one. How do I solve this so that I can imagine what I want without intrusive thoughts? Yeah. I know how frustrating it can be when continuing to try to go to the end, but we have these intrusive thoughts, these negative thoughts. You're not alone. First, most certainly, you're not alone. Um, and this is quite common. I would say that this is quite common. Two important things to note. First thing important to note, don't try to fight the negative thoughts. I know it's sort of a reflex, or we may even be like unconscious trying to push back against it. We may be trying to flip it. We may be trying to fight with it. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. That's likely going to be exhausting the more we try to counter or fight the intrusive thoughts. Observe it, acknowledge it, it's there, but also understanding that this is part of the old concept of self. Nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it accurate. It doesn't make it a fact. This is just part of the old way of being. Nothing more, nothing less. So we can see it for what it is and know that, and not have to engage with it, not have to fight our own mind over it. Second thing that's important is if you are noticing a lot of resistance, a lot of intrusive thoughts, it may be very helpful to get into a drowsier state first, or getting yourself into as much of a relaxed state as possible first. Because The whole purpose of SATs and why SATs came so recommended was because when we are in a drowsy state, when we are in a relaxed state, there's going to be significantly less resistance, and with that, better ability to go to the end. I mean, you might still at first notice some intrusive thoughts. Just let it go and continue to allow yourself to relax, and just allow yourself to get as relaxed as possible, and then imagine whatever it is that you want. This is a practice without question, but and that goes for anything that there's resistance to. Like if we're noticing a lot of pushback, try to first make sure that you are in a relaxed state. If we are anxious, if we're stressed, that's when we're likely going to encounter even more of those intrusive thoughts. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you need me to elaborate. I'm happy for y'all to be here. Welcome, those of you who just joined. Oh, have a wonderful Sunday yourself, Autumn. Thank you. Hi, Missy. Can you please share your experience with revising throughout the day in real time? Thank you. Of course. Of course. Revising on the spot, I take it. So, for me, I'm not saying that this is going to be the case for everyone or is the case for everyone, but for me, revising on the spot was incredibly difficult at first. Incredibly difficult at first. Because when we have a reaction or we're triggered, it can feel incredibly difficult in that moment to counter it, to try to revise it. Um, at least that was certainly my experience. So the thing that I practiced first, what I really did with my revision journey, starting with revision, I practiced revising the day at the end of the day. Like even if it was, small things here or there, but just to allow myself to get familiar with the concept of going into the past and imagining something different. Of course, I don't know um, if you've seen my videos where I've revised a lot of things from my long-term past, but for me, it was, again, it is really kind of getting that practice of going within, imagining the past and changing it. So if you're noticing difficulty on the spot, first, allow yourself to take some deep breaths. Allow yourself to relax. Allow yourself to, if you're having a moment and you're feeling frustrated or you're feeling panicked or anything like that, it's probably going to feel very difficult to try to revise in that moment. Or at least it's going to be difficult believing it. So with practice, revising the day to day, like revising at the end of the day, once we've kind of gotten ourselves to calm down, for me, that is what worked best. And with practice, before you know it, you are going to be able to revise on the spot much better. And to be clear, you are always free to try to revise on the spot. It just may not always be perfect for you, but that's okay. That is okay. Oh, Dia, thank you. I was forced to climb a ladder in 3D. I think I might have manifested that. Hmm. Oh, yeah. Not a coincidence. Much love to you too, Marie. Supposing I want to buy a nice home abroad, is it also okay to visualize winning the lottery in order to achieve that? Or is that messing with the how? that would be more of messing with the how. See, we don't need to create the conditions to get the house. We don't need to come up with the ways in which that is going to unfold. I would just, get as clear as you want, like what the house looks like, if there's, an area, there's a state or a country that you want to move to, fill in those details and then go there. Like see yourself in your home, feel the keys in your hand. If the rest of that feels difficult. If it feels difficult to picture yourself in the house, then imagine the day you got the keys to the house. But we do not need to try to come up with ideas of how it's going to come to pass. And that's just making more work for ourselves. Mm-mm. Oh, have you ever thought of writing a book? I am writing a book. Granted, I haven't had a whole lot of free time the last little bit here, especially with the move, but I have started writing a book. I'm about halfway or so done. But yeah, and trust me, y'all will be the first to know. Y'all will be the first to know. I can't find my spot. Hi, Missy. I am feeling pretty defeated today. I feel like one day I'm on a high and the next I'm on a low. I can't seem to catch a steady break. I'm so sorry. And if it is any reassurance, this is normal. This is normal. It may feel at first like we're on a roller coaster or, two steps forward, one step back, two steps forward, one step back. I'm not saying that's how it's going to go and that everyone's experience will be the same, but and definitely watch my video on ego backlash if you haven't seen it yet. But we are by design not too great with change. Like so when we introduce new thinking patterns, when we introduce new imaginal scenes, new feeling, it could set off an internal subconscious panic because the ego self despises change, right? Fear of the unknown. So it's not, and I know it's exhausting, which is why we want to make sure that we are not putting in a whole lot of effort and trying to fight it. That's just going to deplete our energy even more. It's going to feel tiring as hell. So I know it's frustrating. I know it absolutely sucks when we're having those days. It feels like we haven't made progress or that we're going backwards. Rest assured that's not the case. That's never the case. But also be good to yourself. Give yourself some grace, give yourself love, give yourself whatever you need. Because it will not continue to be like this. It will not continue to be a back and forth over and over and over again. It won't. As you settle more and more into that new state, as it's starting to become more normal and familiar to you, this will be happening less and less until it's just your new normal. Mhm. One sec, guys. Hmm. Sorry. A little bit of buffering, but I think we're good now. I do not I do not see your question, Nora. I'm sorry. Oh, if your manifestation is taking a lot of time, then what do we do? And this is a good one. Um, the irony with time, and I know this is a complete paradox, but the reason it's taking such a long time is because, well, in huge part because we are fixed on the time, as in we are continuing to bring into awareness that it's been a long time, or we're looking for it, or we are aware of the absence of it, and that's where our attention is going. The less we focus on time, the faster it will show up. That's the paradox here. What we want to remember is that this concept of time is just that. It's not real. Linear time is not actually a thing. We're selecting states in moment to moment to moment, every single moment, and usually doing this unconsciously. So if it's taking a long time, we want to just start really taking notes, start paying really close attention, self observation. Where are you dwelling in the day to day naturally? Like without trying to consciously redirect, what are the natural thoughts that come up in your day to day? What are your natural reactions? Because all of that is telling you what dominantly your state is, like what the dominant state is that you occupy, or if you still have perhaps some attachments to these old concepts and stories. So we want to take note of that feedback, and especially if it feels like it's been a long time. That's where self-observation is key. And perhaps we may need to, redirect our attention, or maybe experiment with another way of imagining to see if it helps make it feel more natural to us, help us to get into that state without effort. But yeah, if you're noticing the time a lot, that's feedback in and of itself that we need to redirect our attention, go back to the end. Missy, do you have to believe your scenes or affirmations for it to manifest? As time goes on without 3D movement, this might become harder to do. Great question. Um, the short answer is no. We don't have to believe it in order for it to manifest. However, we are always manifesting, we're always creating based off of our beliefs and assumptions. That's we all have a default that we come back to. So we ideally want to have the beliefs and assumptions lining up with our desires, right? That's why this is all about changing the self-concept. Because if I desire a loving, committed relationship with my person, then I would want my beliefs and assumptions to line up with that version of me. Because if I'm perhaps still holding on to old fears, old doubts, worries, insecurities, and I do successfully manifest them back, I'm going to go back to that default setting. And I speak from experience on that. So is it necessary? No. No, you can absolutely see something come to pass that you don't even necessarily believe. You can leave an impression subconsciously and see it externalized. But I mean, that's why another thing that we really want to be mindful of and what we want to be observing is proof that the law is real, building our faith, building our trust. That whatsoever I imagine, whatsoever I assume is what becomes my 3D experience. And we can see the law in our day-to-day lives. Like we can absolutely see the proof if we are observant of it. So building trust and faith in the law is going to be one of the most important things that we can do. Yeah, because we can always lean into that if we're having difficulty around our desires. Hi, Carrie. Hello, hello. Love you too. There is still a couple of yes, there are still a couple of spots for one-on-one coaching that will be opening up this week. So definitely be on that wait list if you are not yet. What affirmations can be used to stop giving your power away unconsciously? Good questions. Um, I mean, whatever you can help, whatever can resonate with you, whatever helps resonate with you. Um, of course, we can always come back to the first principle: be still and know that I am God. I am the operant power. My awareness of being is what creates, right? It's really just bringing our attention back to this fact, because especially if we're new to this, if these are new teachings, and even if they're not, it's easy for us to forget. It's easy for us to go back into that autopilot mode. That happens all the time. So whatever can help disrupt that, even if that's leaving notes or reminders on your phone to go off and kind of snap you out of it in the day to day, bring you back to that reminder that you are in fact the operant power. Yeah. Yeah. Rest assured, though, as we continue to build our faith, as we continue to build our trust, see more and more of things come to pass, you will stop giving your power away unconsciously. Do you have more allegory explanations on your page? I love the metaphysical stories of the Bible. It really helps you understand manifestation. Yes, it does. And I do. I have a series that I started on the Bible and the allegories and metaphors of the Bible. I've got a couple of episodes in. They just need to be edited. I wanted to release it as its own playlist. But yeah, that is definitely something in the works, because it is fascinating, and it will absolutely help, because the Bible is just the psychological blueprint of man. And it will start to make much more sense when we read it from that perspective. Man, I have the power. Exactly, Darren. Exactly. All right, find my spot. Oh, whoops. I don't see it. I'm so sorry. You said it was near the beginning? Um, so sorry about that. It been on might have been retracted accidentally. Hang on. Sorry guys, one moment. Nelly, I don't see a two-part comment near the beginning. I'm so sorry if you want to resubmit that. My apologies. Uh, Hi, Missy. I've been having a hard time with feeling selfish with my desires. Any help would be greatly appreciated. This is a really good one. Um, because a lot of times we can be raised to believe that a common belief, a societal belief, is that it could be selfish to want things for yourself, or your desires, wanting what you want makes you selfish. If you have a desire, it's because you are meant to have that experience. We may not consciously know why that is, but it's because you are meant to have that experience. Period. End of story. Full stop. Hi, Missy. I was wondering your thoughts on manifesting from an SP's point of view, like doing an imaginal scene out of their eyes, if that makes sense, since everyone is thus pushed out. Cool. Yeah. I I love that. I love that idea because absolutely, yes, everyone is you pushed out. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think if that was something that I approached. I mean, experiment with it, see how it feels. See how it feels. Again, it comes back to the feeling is the most important thing. The feeling is the most important thing. But I like that. Thank you, Kedron. Good to have you here. Can you discuss your experience in the I am the operant power and maintaining that awareness? Absolutely. Are you referring to the I am, like that I am state, the unconditioned consciousness, that kind of a thing? I'm not sure if you've heard of something in this community, it's referred to as the I am meditation. Neville called it going fishing, but it is essentially where you are going within and you are just focusing on awareness. You are just saying, I am without conditioning it, just focused on that awareness of being. And you're just allowing yourself to hone in on that, dropping away all of these other conceptions of self. It is an incredibly powerful experience. And if it's in Neville's book, Your Faith is Your Fortune. The chapter's called Fishing. If you haven't heard about it or read it, I absolutely recommend you do. Um, and that is something that we should come back to. Like, if or when we forget, because at times we're going to forget, coming back to that awareness, coming back to that unconditioned consciousness, that expansion, that you are not your body, you are not your name, you are not all of the things that you think you are. You are the consciousness aware of those things. The difference is huge. So it's an incredibly powerful tool for detachment, for, like breaking away from the chains of the old concept of self. Because for the longest time, we've identified with this person, this identity, with all of these weaknesses and hopes and dreams and fears and doubts. That's not who you really are. It's the role that you are playing, but that's not who you really are. And the more that we do this, the more that we go fishing, the more you will maintain that. Definitely check that out if you haven't before. You're welcome, Tori. You are welcome. I asked the question about wanting a house abroad. I think the thing is, I want to also feel that I am wealthy without working. Absolutely, you can. Absolutely. And if you focus on that state of wealth, if you focus on the state of freedom, if you allow yourself to entertain the ideas of what that's like what would you do? What would your life be like if you no longer had to work? Like, what would you be doing differently? How would you be approaching life? Would you be traveling more? Would you? This is what we want to entertain. If we're not familiar with what that looks like, then we can get familiar with what that looks like, and we don't have to have conditions around it. We don't have to know where it came from. We don't have to know how we're going to get it because we're not we're not going to know consciously. But we can absolutely entertain that state. We can occupy that state in imagination. Yeah, 10,000% recommend that. Oh, there we are, Nelly. So instead of focusing on winning the lottery like I was, I'm focusing on being financially set for life. Since then, I ended up giving since then I ended up getting one of Neville's books for free and even given $15 randomly. Love it. I am grateful for this, but there's still a certain amount I want to receive regularly without working and not just getting free stuff and a little bit of money. Should I persist in knowing I still get more and receive the money I want? Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't let yourself get distracted from that. And that is key. We are easily distracted as humans. Continuing to go back to that state 70 times 7. Yes. Where's my spot? You are the best, Darren. Thank you. You guys are so sweet to each other. I love this. Hi, Missy. Is there a conflict between revising a situation, like a breakup, and doing affirmations for the relationship? Meaning I am doing conflicting things? If I'm understanding correctly, because we can absolutely revise a situation, in this case, a breakup, and then continue to go to the end, continue to go back in imagination to the two of you are together, you're healthy, you're happy, doing the things that you love. Um, will there be conflict there? Mm-mm. Uh, if you are talking about revising things that were said, but then affirming against the things that were said, that may be pointing to double mindedness. Like, for example, if you revised a terrible fight where they said they never wanted to see you again, purely an example, but then you're also affirming, oh, he totally wants to see me again. He wants to see me again. That's conflict. Those are two opposing states of consciousness. Um, once you have revised that breakup to the point where the new memory feels real, it feels like that's what happened. Continue to fixate on already being together and what life would be like. What are the day-to-day things that you would encounter? I hope that makes sense. If you need me to elaborate, let me know. It is possible to heal any ailment. Yes. If we're talking about health or appearance, we can absolutely change it. Doesn't matter. Now, That may feel difficult for us to believe. It might feel difficult to accept that, especially for things that we can physically see, like we can see with our eyeballs. I know we may have some confliction there at first. That is normal. But that's why the most important thing out of all of this practice is practice shutting out the senses, shutting out the 3D, like going within and then utilizing your imaginal senses, like no longer going off of what you are seeing in the 3D. If we're practicing anything, it's that. hmm Because when you close your eyes and you go within, it can be anything you want. It's a blank slate. We don't have to continue to take conditions of the 3D world with us. Yeah. Hi, my name is Amber. Hi, Amber. I've watched the videos of revision. I've done it with some success, but don't see it with my SP. Is there such a thing as it's not meant to be or I'm not there yet? You're not there yet. And I don't even want to say that because that's not even the right way to put it. You may still be more conditioned to believe the old story, the old memory. Like that one in this present moment feels more real to you. And that's okay because we can continue to revise and it will no longer feel like the story or it will no longer feel like it really happened. The new memory will become what really happened. Revision is wild, I know. Um, but is there ever a thing as it's not meant to be? No, no. Because that would imply that you are not the operant power. That would imply that something or someone or whatever else holds power over you, which is not true. So with practice, yeah. And like I said, you may not have been here earlier when I was talking about revision. For the, again, I don't like using the words bigger or smaller things, but for the sake of understanding and not getting too confusing, for the bigger things, we may need to come back and revise that more just because of, the gravity of it, the attachment to it, like the impact that it had on us. All of those things may make it feel more difficult to revise at first. So yeah, keep going. Oh, weird. Where did all my messages go up top? When is the book coming out? You need to do a film soon. Francesca, you are such a wonderful soul. Thank you. When is the movie coming out? To be determined. Uh, wow, the chat is really weird today. I'm so sorry, guys. Does anyone have a pearl I can buy? I can't stop doubting. I know. I know. And this is where, again, I know I come back to it over and over, and that's because I have to, and I'm going to continue to. Build your trust. Like, prove to yourself that the law is real or that it isn't. Like, one way or the other. But it's when we are on the fence that we are at the mercy of double-mindedness. Because either the law is real or it's not. We might have the tendency to cherry pick and be selective. Like, a common thought is, oh yeah, I can totally manifest for the small things, but not for the big things. The law is not biased. To the law, they're all things. There's no big or small. That's our own perception. So building our trust in the law for everything, not just for some things, is paramount. Hi, Missy. I would like you to do a video about several success stories from your own because the few I heard are so inspiring and boost me up so much. I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, success stories are pretty amazing. I know that they can give us much needed encouragement, inspiration. I have made a video about some of my personal successes. I'm not sure if you've seen that one or not. Admittedly, though, it is a fairly old video. So, yeah, I probably need to do a part two of my own personal success story video. That's a good idea. Yeah, I like that. I'm lost in your iris. Oh no. Oh no. You are sweet, Nor. Thank you. Oh, love you too, Yara. Have a good one. See you next week. What a beautiful human being. Hi, Missy. Our talk did wonders. Feel better than ever. Had date with new guy last night. Had some of those FOMO thoughts, but way less. And knew when I got home, SP is it. Hope FOMO of new guy go away soon. And it will. It will. I'm so happy to hear that, Kelly. Good. Good. Girl, you got this. Should we give up on manifesting if we don't get any results? I heard sometimes giving up is what works the best. And I really need to do a video on this. Because on the one hand, how do I even put this? On the one hand, what we want to remember is that whether or not we are conscious of it, we are always manifesting. We are always the one selecting the state of consciousness or reality to experience. So that's always going to happen. That's always going to be a thing, whether we know and are aware of it or not. So for myself, and again, I can only speak about myself, for myself, for me, it did not make sense to give my power to outside circumstance. Just be at the mercy of whatever. That didn't make sense. So in that aspect, I don't encourage people to quit, because if there are patterns, if there are beliefs, if there are assumptions, like the core beliefs and assumptions, patterns, whether it's with your specific person or somebody new, doesn't matter. That's why this really does have to be at the root, at the core. This has to be about changing self. Period. However, that said, all of that said, if you are noticing a lot of feelings such as burnout, if you are noticing a lot of frustration, if it is mental health, if it's taking a toll, then absolutely take a break. Take a break. There's no harm in doing so. Like if you need a moment to recharge, if you need a minute to like just not have to stress constantly about all the techniques and you know, because if we're putting in a whole lot of effort into this, which unfortunately most of us do, we can quickly reach a place of burnout and frustration. So if that feels like that is what is happening or has happened, then for the love of everything, yes, take a break. Even if it's a few days, a week where you just don't worry about the techniques, don't worry about the perfect mental diet, don't worry about any of it. Allow yourself to rest, allow yourself to recharge your batteries. What I will say, this is something that we should always do going forward, is just continue with the self-observation. Again, prove to yourself if the law is real or not. Don't ever take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. Don't take Neville's word for it, any other coach on here. But if you are observant, you will see that everything is in fact a reflection and not picturing. So that's why I don't encourage people to quit. But if you need to take a break for your own sanity, for your mental health, then yes, yes, do so. What if we feel like we messed up our manifestation? You can't. You cannot mess up your manifestation. We might miss the mark. Like we may unintentionally impress and see something out pictured that was not ideal. Okay, if that happens, we can take aim again. It is not possible for you to ruin your manifestation in the way that we think about. We think ruining means like you're never going to get a chance to do this right again. That's not a thing. That's never a thing. So if we feel like we messed up, likely we just missed the mark, revise it, take aim again. Take aim again. You literally cannot fail at this. Sarah, this is an excellent point. Do you have a pet by chance? If so, try imagining petting or playing with your pet. I leveled up a lot by visualizing petting my dog. Yeah, no, seriously, like the love and warmth that we feel when we are like playing with our pet, our fur baby, petting the cat, petting the dog, snuggling with them. I did that too. In my darkest of moments when ugh, I had a terrible, terrible concept of myself earlier on. So much so that I did not really know what it felt like to be in love. The idea of love was so mixed with fear, and it was fear that was running the show. So when I would try to imagine a loving scenario with my person or even a friend or somebody else, it felt so difficult to do that. So at the time, I had a little puppy, little beagle, and I would just let myself get lost in the feeling of cuddling this dog, playing with this dog, the unconditional love and support we get from our animals. And that bit by bit helped me to get myself out of that state of feeling unloved. Thank you for that, Sarah. That is an excellent suggestion. Hi, Misty. Can you tell me how to revise something that didn't happen? My SP has a substance abuse problem. I don't know what to imagine to change it. Oh, absolutely. So, with revision, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that did happen. Um, something completely new. Just like we creative for scenes of the future, we can do the same for the past. It's kind of think of yourself as a screenwriter, and you've written up these drafts of the screenplay that is your life, you can go back and revise the drafts. You can take out parts entirely and put in something completely new. Completely new. So in this case, when dealing with something such as substance abuse, I mean, there's a couple different ways you can approach it. You can imagine congratulating him for being sober for X years, however long, if it, because that may come more naturally for you. Or you could imagine conversations where he's always been sober. He's never touched anything. Again, I know it may not feel very believable right now, from this state of consciousness, but we can absolutely imagine that. We can absolutely imagine anything. That's really more than anything. The point that I stress is don't, don't limit. We don't have to go off of what the 3D says or has shown us in the past. We can literally imagine anything. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Missy, I wish I could be your relative. I'll be your sister. Why not? Lots of love from Poland. Lots of love. My husband's Polish. Much, much love to Poland. Well, his family's from Poland, I should say. I set an intention about a month ago that I'd see a purple butterfly. A couple nights ago, I dreamt of a purple butterfly flying around me and landing on me. Felt so real. What's that about? That is what I mean when I say, like, your dreams are feedback. So likely that seed's been planted is what that means, because you experienced in that dream seeing a purple butterfly. And if it felt real, it is real, to be clear. That was an experience that you had, is what that means. Oh, I'm so sorry, Ivy. I know the feeling of defeat. Yeah. Feel like all the areas in my life aren't good, be it in money, love, etc. Do I need to keep affirming and affirming? Um, I mean that is one approach you can take, but honestly, if you are not noticing any change in how you feel, I would play around with different ways of imagining. Be it visualization, be it inner conversations. The key is to feel this state and as natural as possible. It's the naturalness that we're going for, not the emotion, but the normalcy of it. So we want to imagine in a way that it just feels normal to us. It feels like something we can resonate with. If it's going to be in the form of affirmations, I do strongly recommend that the affirmations at least resonate. Like, you can get behind them. They feel really good. They give you a boost, they energize you, things like that. If that does not feel like the case, if it's feeling more like a chore, if it's feeling maybe much not like anything, play around with different ways. Like, there are so many ways that we can use our imagination. So many ways. And sometimes we do need to experiment a little bit to see what comes more naturally to us, what feels better for us. At the very least, if you're going to use affirmations robotically, I would at least do so in a drowsy state where there will be less resistance there, at least. And this chat is so out of order today. This is wild. Weird. I haven't seen this before. Sorry, guys. Can you talk about what SP thinks when you are affirming about them? Absolutely. And I made a video about this too. Um, forget the exact title, but it's, what your SP is thinking when you're manifesting them, if you type it up in the search bar. But the short answer is they're thinking whatever you assume they're thinking. It's always the case. So whatever you feel and assume is true about them, like what you think that they're thinking about, that's because you're selecting that state. You're selecting that reality, which is why we really don't want to entertain and give life to things like, what are they thinking about? Are they thinking about other people? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Because it's always going to be whatever we assume it is. So assume nothing but the best. Kelly, you've got a really good question. When you were manifesting hubby, did you do imaginal scenes during the day or just PM sets? I want to try to do scenes during the day, but only have a few minutes here or there and don't want it to just be a daydream. Good question. Um, hang on. Uh, okay, I think we're good. I would always windows, right? So PM sats, AM sats, but the day in the middle of the day, because I had this window typically. It was only like 30 minutes, 45 minutes or so, but I had a window where before I would just go sit out in my car and cry usually. But I started to use that time for imaginal scenes, like really going into imagination. So yeah, I got into the habit of going into sats during the daytime, which felt amazing. It felt really good. Now, of course, if it feels like there's not enough time or day is very busy, completely understandable. The most important thing is as much as we can relax into the feeling before bed as you're getting sleepy. So there's no interruptions, there's no distractions or anything like that. But absolutely, absolutely play around as frequently as we can. Go back to that state, we should. Basically. I am in a new house. I am. People have been asking if this background is like a Zoom background. No, that this is this is my office. My SP's birthday is on the 22nd, and it would be lovely to manifest him back before that date. What's your best advice when manifesting on a time crunch? Mm. So, for time crunches, and this is where, if you can help it, I actually recommend not bringing the time into it. And what I mean by that is we have a tendency to fixate on the calendar, and we want to avoid that because how you make things happen on a time crunch is you stop paying attention to the time. It sounds completely backwards, but that just is. And you don't want to get yourself more and more worked up as that date gets closer because that's just bringing attention to not having, right? Not being. And we want to avoid that whenever possible. So, um, honestly, drop the time entirely, at least, of course, to the best of your ability. Or imagine that you two are spending his birthday together and, give it whatever context you want in that sense. But if you find yourself turning and looking at the date and noticing yourself feeling more anxious, I would drop the time aspect. Yeah. Well, I got time for maybe one or two more questions, and then I've got all of the emails. All the emails. Hi, Missy. I'd love to hear more about the revision process you did growing up poor, but revising it to wealth. Was there a specific event? Did you script sats or how long did you revise? Good question. Good question. So, was there an event? No. Mm, the main scene that I came back to was imagining myself. At first, I noticed that I was in like a uniform. Like I was coming back from school and I was in a uniform because I was in private school in this revised scene. And I'm walking up to a house and it's a beautiful house. And my parents, first my mom comes out and then my dad comes out behind her. And both are dressed nicely. My dad's wearing a suit. It implies success. It implies abundance, right? So there were these elements of that scene that implied abundance, that implied that we had money, basically. And I ran up to my mom, I gave her a hug, and that was the scene, and that was the one that I kept coming back to over and over again. It's actually one that came to me most often. Um, I did it in sats, wasn't scripting per se. I mean, I did outline ideas of what it would look like if we were wealthy growing up. But as far as what I imagined, like what I revised, that was predominantly it. Yeah. Placebo effect. Every time Missy takes a sip, I have 10,000 bucks in my bank account. Oh yeah, my dude. There's 10K more for you. Where? This is wild. I have never seen YouTube do this before. I am so sorry, you guys. I feel like I'm all sorts of out of order today. Like comments that were at the beginning of the live are now like in the middle, and the questions in the middle are now at the top. This is weird. I'm so sorry. I've had two intentional out of body experiences which have helped me to understand that consciousness is everything. The phrase by Michael Verduga. Yes. Yes. I love that. And I do plan on making some videos talking about some of the more mystical experiences that I've had that have shown me and have made it so I can prove to myself that consciousness is the only reality. That's amazing. The introvert question. What is this introvert question you speak of? Hi, Missy. I know you say that faith is crucial, but according to Neville's ladder technique, you could affirm the opposite during the day and still receive your desire. Could you explain this? Thanks. Absolutely, I can. So, and to be clear, faith is not like we do not need to have unwavering faith in order to manifest. Like it's even if you question, even if you doubt, the law is always working. And I always refer people to Neville's Barbados experience when he manifested that trip to Barbados. He was full of doubts at that time. This was well before he had really come into that faith in the law. What what I'm trying to say about faith is it is going to make things exponentially smoother for us on this journey, because that is always something that we can lean into if anything seems to be going sideways or something happens. Because again, we never know what that bridge is going to look like. It may appear at first to be going terribly. So having that faith is going to be incredibly helpful. So I don't want to come across to say, like, if you don't have utter faith, it's not going to work for you. That's not what I meant. But as far as the ladder experiment, like, why is it that even though we affirm something, we ended up getting the opposite? Because in that exercise, in that ladder experiment, Neville tells his followers to go to sleep imagining that you're climbing a ladder, right? So in that part, you're planting a seed. And the reason that he instructed people to do it before bed is that is when the subconscious mind is wide open and ripe for impression. So despite what is said in the day-to-day, despite the words, the actions, whatever, if you go to sleep in that feeling of climbing a ladder, you're going to climb the ladder. So Neville's point in that whole thing was what you imagine and take with you into sleep, what you accept in that drowsy state will ultimately come to pass over the words. I hope that makes sense. Let's all revise YouTube. Yes. Yes. What if you're having trouble with feeling it real? Probably putting in too much effort. If you're having difficulty with feeling it real, it may be because there's a lot of forcing or straining. Um, if that's not the case, oh, where'd you go? Where did that question go? It was just here. Ah, that's fine. With feeling it real, let go of the efforting. Get yourself relaxed first. Get yourself as much in a relaxed state because in that relaxed state, things are going to come much more natural. It's going to feel much more natural. One habit that we really want to break is like micromanaging the scene and trying to like consciously with the thinking mind construct everything and force everything and get wrapped up in all the details of it. We don't need to do that. Yeah. So a lot of times it comes down to too much willpower, too much effort. And the key to that is allow yourself to relax. Allow yourself to relax. And one funny thing is when I was practicing like letting go and relaxing, I found it to be incredibly difficult, surprisingly enough, because relaxation is just the opposite of effort. It's just, yeah, letting go of that tension, surrendering that tension, um, which sounds easy, but at least for me, that was not always the case. So we may need to practice just relaxing the body, body scans, meditation, that kind of a thing. But yeah. You are so welcome. Missy, I am in the state. How can I avoid getting trapped and looking at the 3D? Well, if you catch yourself looking at the 3D, direct your attention. And you this is where, we may need to be deliberate at disrupting the autopilot because the autopilot is going to turn your attention back to the 3D. Like that's what we are primed to do. That's what we have been doing. So you may need to be deliberate about it, but if you catch yourself paying attention to what's going on out there, Direct your focus. Direct thy focus. And on that note, you guys, I don't know how it's already been 2 hours. That is wild. But thank you so much for being here. I do have to get going, unfortunately. And I apologize if I did not get to your question. I don't know why the chat was out of order today. But rest assured, I am here every Sunday, every weekend at least. So I hope you can join me next time. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Much love. Take care. And I will see you guys on the next round. Bye, y'all.